I began to figure out, how do I do one-to-many? And you're probably hearing this going, well, that's obvious. It wasn't obvious for me at the time. So I started figuring out one-to-many, and I started figuring out, this is all pre-Zoom, Skype, any of this. It literally was trying to work out how to do a recording. Cameras were ridiculously expensive. There was no iPhone camera, none of the technologies that we take for granted for today. So it really was becoming a technical issue, solving one-to-many. And remember, there was not really that much internet marketing back then either. We're going back dinosaur time. So it was, how do I reach people to know there's going to be a workshop? And then how do I leverage the workshop and repurpose it? So I record it, transcribe it, turn it into lesson plans for the next facilitator, turn it into a workbook if the training gets run again. And so that became the journey. Parallel to that, I began to leverage my skill as a coach and as a networker and marketer, and I was bringing in some quite large gigs, and I began to put together a coaching agency. So that was my second attempt at leveraging. So I began to have an agency of coaches. I think at the peak we had 30 coaches, and I was earning 25% commission off every hour of coaching I was able to give them, which is really good deal because the coach doesn't have to do any marketing. All they had to do was qualify I had about 12 criteria for a coach to qualify to be part of my agency. I could refer them to the work as long as there was a match for the client. They didn't have to market. They said to show up and start coaching. So that was tremendous. And that had about, as I said, 30 coaches peak, and I earned tremendous money from that. And that was really learning the power of leverage, because that was me leveraging skills other than time for money. So I had an agency of coaches around the world, mainly in Australia, who were doing the do, and I was coordinating it. I was managing the contracts, I was managing the website, I was managing them getting matched to clients. The third version of this that I began to think about, play with, and utilize was building a product. So I built my it's not even on the market anymore, which I think may be a good thing, but it's called Empower. And so I built Empower. I lost money for the first month ever in the history, and only month ever my business has lost money was the month I built Empower. So back in the day, it was down to Officeworks to get the CDs by the jewel case. I printed my jewel case covers myself. There was no professional way of doing that. And then I had to replicate all the CDs, and it was a 12 CD set with workbooks to back it up. And I started, what was the rate? I think it was $297 Australian, I think. I began selling that. So if I had a workshop, I would sell Empower. It was Empower, the magic of you, I think it was. And so that did not create a lot of income, but it was me learning leverage. I didn't mind learning the lessons. I consider all businesses are our schools. And so I was learning the power of leveraging my skill into a product. The fourth way was I began workshopping with coaches who wanted to build their businesses. And so instead of working with them individually, which they would have been happy to have done, to have hired me, I began bringing them in for group sessions. And now I reflect, there were two types of sessions. One was how to build your business, which I helped them with. Another one was coaching skills. There wasn't much coach training in Australia at that time, and I filled that gap. And again, I recorded it. I didn't turn that into a product for whatever reason, but I began recording it. So I had all these different ways of thinking about leveraging. This is in reflection, me learning the skill of leverage. And I began to create this rule. For every hour in, I had to work an hour on my business. And so I began to balance my coaching hours, which now the fees were quite high. An hour of coaching required an hour of working on my business. And it could be building a product, working on the agency, taking the agency, I think we went into the United States a little bit as well with it, how to leverage workshops and repurpose them. Just any way I could, thinking about working on it. Or it could be just expanding the website so the offerings on the website didn't just include my time for money back in the day when it was just me and associates. So that's how it first began to transition away from me. And so my coaching hours came down a little bit as I began plugging into doing workshops for some global companies, which was great. tremendous opportunity to learn workshopping skills. Now, as I did that, that immediately presented itself to me what I needed to teach myself. So I went immediately and did the most advanced speaker training I could find. I did the most advanced coaching training I could find. I trained in NLP. I started getting trained in family therapy systems. It's just everywhere I went, it was about, okay, the skill really is the ultimate leverage. The skill and the experience as a coach is the ultimate. You put the time in, you build your skill and your experience, and you get the testimonials. That forms really the platform from which everything else can launch. So I just began investing more and more in this so that this could get replicated in many more ways. That's how I looked at it. So as I said, speaker training as much as I could, NLP, family therapy, advanced coaching, business skills. I did anything I could do. I trained my brain, realizing the ultimate leverage was here, the real estate between my ears. As a result of that, I began to get more efficient and effective at filling workshops and at running them and at having people want to come back and at repurposing them. And so that began to expand. The agency began to drop away. Empower definitely dropped away. Me working out how to record the sessions dropped away, and the other leverage points dropped away, but me teaching coaches clearly became a passion of mine. Me teaching coaching very clearly was my song, very naturally. So I trusted that, and I didn't, I wasn't thinking I'd make more money in, for example, business coaching, which I would. I thought, but that's my passion, and that's clearly there's a market there, and if I can leverage myself, then I can fill that space in the market. And so that began to flourish. That's where I began to put my energy, my time, and my working on the business into.